Try out this set play in doubles to win quick and easy points and dominate the net.
So before we get into it, we have a super exciting giveaway just for you.
Yonex UK have very kindly given us one of the brand new NanoFlare 700 Pro rackets to give away to one person.
So make sure you head down to the link in our description. That will take you straight to our Instagram with all the details on how to enter. So earlier on this week, we actually released a short on this specific tactic. So make sure you check that out as well. But in this video, we're going to actually go into a bit more detail about the scenario and how to actually do it. So Dean, where are we starting?
So let's start with the situation as to what this covers. And it's very much when the net player maybe gets dragged out wide and they're at the net and they're hitting a hard shot, maybe down the tram line. Now what we're looking for when that happens is it becomes very difficult for the defender to hit a cross-court shot. So what we normally see is that net players don't necessarily adopt the right position after hitting that shot. And in the short, we covered that maybe they retreat back to middle because there's this wrong philosophy of when we're at the net, we have to recover to middle. So what we're looking to do is when we're coming and hitting this kind of hard shot down the line, is very much kind of feel like we're stepping back to cover that tram line. Two reasons why that's so important. It's the most likely shot to cover, but also by us picking a side, it makes it very clear to our partner behind us what we are covering. The biggest issue as well about coming back to middle is that no one really knows who's covering what. It sends a very clear signal that I'm going to come out wide and my partner can then cover the cross court.
And this sort of comes back to maybe a particular thing we find with a lot of players, that they almost assume their opponent could hit the shuttle anywhere. And actually we can almost break down the sides into what's the most likely and what's less likely. And this straight drive, the reason why we're doing this is because it's the most likely, assuming you hit your shot in the right place. Obviously, if you're hitting your shot slightly different, maybe cross, then the other side becomes maybe more likely and you have to change your positioning for that.
So let's start with who is covering what shot. So after I come forward to the net and hit the shot down the line, I would take a step off and cover the straight drive and maybe the straight block. And David's job is now to push up on the cross court to start to cover the cross block and the cross drive.
Now, one of the things we always get, the question we get asked all the time is then who's covering the lift? Who's going to take that one, Dean?
Well, I mean, the biggest issue that we have with people always talking about covering the lift is it's the longest flight time. People are always worried about the back of the court, but that shuttle has to travel a long way to get there. We're not saying the movement's easy, but you have a lot more time to get there.
So when it comes to deciding who maybe cover that shot in your pair, it can be decided by a few factors, whether you've got a person who typically plays at the back of the court, or whether you've got a person who is actually generally quicker than their partner and then cover that more easily. So we understand the situation we're going to be doing this tactic in, but Dean, how do we actually do it?
So we'll start with the footwork because that's particularly important when it comes to looking off for that hard drive down the line. So after we've come into the net and we've obviously lunged on our racket leg and we've hit the kill here, it's more about bringing this racket leg behind me. And the reason that we're doing that is it creates a solid base for almost that for us to maybe lean back on a little bit. So if that drive is coming quick, that we can just feel like we can shift our eyes backwards a little bit, just to give us a little bit more time to feel like we can hit. If we're coming back level, we can't really lean backwards. So it's just creating a solid base for us to hit a good interception shot.
And that's also going to help you move off if you do need to cover a different scenario. If we're too kind of square on here, quite hard to move forward and backwards. Whereas if you're slightly split, you can then push off a leg and change direction quite easily. And
I guess it's also maybe worth bringing in the speed of the recovery. If we're playing a hard, fast shot, that's not going to be in the air very long before our opponent returns it. So it's not, we don't want to feel like we're here too long. It's very much kind of feel like that foot comes down and as soon as that shuttle's left our racket here, that we're then coming back looking for that interception.
And talking of speed, that probably brings us on really well to this racket. What we're actually doing with that racket, because that shuttle's coming back quick, we don't have much time.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot, David, but the racket is always the most undervalued thing that sometimes people think about when they're playing badminton, and by far the most important. So once we've hit this kill here, or fast shot, it kind of stays up in position. We don't want this racket coming down, because even if we step off great with the feet, the time we bring this racket back up again, that shot was gone, or we can't hit a quality shot. So it's about hitting this kill, and then that racket springs back up into position. So we're ready for that shot coming back. There's nothing now on the recovery. Our recovery's done, and we can focus 100% on that shot coming back at us. A common problem we sometimes see is that players don't commit enough to the first shot. If you don't apply enough pressure with the first shot, we allow our opponent to hit a higher quality shot or even play away from us. So how does it differ on the backhand side? Well, for the kill, we're now going to be using our thumb grip, but we're still going to be leading with our racket leg forwards. After we've hit that kill, rather than bringing our racket leg behind us, we're actually going to keep our non-racket leg back. Jumping backwards, and again, this will still create a stable base for us on this side for us to lean back if we have to. As we're coming back, we'll obviously have to change our grip more to a forehand grip, which will allow us to rotate and gain a lot more power on the interception.
Now, we touched on a little earlier the importance of the direction of your first shot to ensure that shuttle comes back straight at you. But Dean, let's go into a bit more detail about where you want to be aiming the shot.
So I guess as a net player, we often say that you want a shot that either comes back to yourself or comes back to your partner. So if it's a shot that a net player is looking to come back to themselves and they're stepping off cover in the straight, they would favour a harder kill or drive down this side towards the tram line, because if I'm taking my normal setup bevel grip, this becomes very difficult to cross the shuttle. So as we said, the highest percentage shot is straight. It's not to say they can't cross, but we're covering the highest percentage. Now, if it's that you maybe want to play a little bit more to your partner, you may still take the same recovery yourself as a net player, but you may aim the kill a little bit more into the inside hip. And again, if they've got a standard bevel grip setup, this actually favours a little bit more on the cross. It's not to say that either first shot is wrong, it's just having a clear idea of who you're playing to and why you are targeting certain areas.
A great example of this is if you're a right-hand, left-handed player, and you can almost set yourself both up as partners on your forehand, depending on where you direct this shuttle.
As a net player, it's also important to be aware of how the defender is setting up on the other side of the court. So if it is that you see someone that's maybe waiting a little bit more on their forehand, then maybe you would just carry on playing down the tram line, because you're making that shot very difficult for them to play every time. So we hope you found this video on a doubles net tactic useful. If you have any comments or queries, please hit them in the comments below.
And if you like this content, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and head over to our Instagram and give us a follow.